Hello and welcome to the Student Course Selection Program Information Session. My name is Teresa Burlack and I'm one of the Assistant Principals at Taylors Lake Secondary College, and I'm here today to talk you through the process of subject and course selection for Year 10 students moving into Year 11 in 2021. You will have noticed that things look a little bit different to this time last year, but please be assured that planning for 2021 is still at the forefront of our minds, and we do hope that it's at the forefront of your minds as well, as it is important to start to look at and navigate through a range of resources and documents and start making some informed decisions about what your child's pathway looks like next year and beyond. In terms of the course counselling process this year, we've tried to streamline it and make it as clear and as straightforward as possible. So essentially, we've already met with students within their home groups through Microsoft Teams in order to run through and give them insight into what this process looks like this year. And so we unpack the process and the steps that students will need to take. And this presentation, I suppose, is just another way of complementing that and reinforcing it to both students and families at home. The next step of the process involves students collecting their course planning packs, and so it's very important that students do collect those hard copy packs. So if you haven't done so already, please head to the general office and collect that, because it does pertain information specific to each individual student, including tailored and specific web codes and login details. So again, if you haven't done so already, please head into the college and collect that pack. We're currently at step 3, so an information session. This is a YouTube clip, and this will be followed up with an information or a question and answer session on Tuesday the 28th of July at 7 p.m. So if this clip doesn't answer or clarify your questions, please feel free to log into that session and I'll be able to cover things that may be a little bit unclear. We then move on to the interview process. Now, you will remember that last year you would have met with your course advisor face-to-face in the library. This will still happen, but not face-to-face this year. So this will be done online via a tool called WebEx. And so again, that information is in your pack, your specific appointment time and your specific WebEx code, so that you get into the right room, so to speak, and meet with your allocated course advisor. As in previous years, we do encourage families to be a part of that process. So the student can attend this online session on their own, or they can have family members present as well. And then the final stage is the admin stuff. So submitting the web choices form online and also in hard copy as well. Essentially, our goals today are I want you to emerge with a comprehensive understanding of the options available to students as they move into Year 11 and beyond Taylors Lake Secondary College in a couple of years, as well as a knowledge of the web choices and administrative side of things. I will run through in a little bit of detail later on the different choices or options that students have at their feet at this point in time. So looking at a Victorian Certificate of Education option or a VCAL option, as well as the different sub-branches that exist within those two options. It is, however, important that students start to look at the documentation available to them to help them navigate this time and this process and make an informed decision about where they may wish to head. And look, you know, I've said it to classes in the past and I'll say it again, we're not expecting students to know exactly what they want to do with the rest of their lives. It's an impossible task, but we do need students to start thinking about the different things that they may wish to pursue, because we don't want to have a situation whereby they discover a little bit later on down the track that they want to do this, but they haven't taken the steps in the lead up to make sure that that's an option that's available to them. So having a look at the Australian Jobs Guide or Jobs publication to look at the different industries and courses and careers and opportunities within those industries is a really good starting point. And it's also good for students to start to think about the different skills that employers are looking for. There has been a global shift in the past couple of years, and so employers are looking for that creativity, that originality, the capacity to collaborate with colleagues and to problem solve, to demonstrate leadership and the use of emotional intelligence. And so it's important for students to bear that in mind. And obviously they're equipped with these things at school and, you know, we start to form those building blocks. But these are the highly sought after skills that a range of industries are looking for. Again, there are heaps of options and documents on Compass to assist students with this process, and I do encourage them to have a look at their feeds. Miss Damon has posted an array of different resources and guides that will help students to make an informed decision. The My Future website is also another fantastic tool that students have available to them. Students would already have grappled with this within the context of the home group program at school, but essentially it's just divided up into different industries, and then there are lots of different bullseye charts that students can access and click on, and it helps students navigate and look at the different careers within those industries and the different courses and qualifications that students may wish to pursue in order to realise their dream of working in that field. So I do encourage students to have a play around with the My Future website. There are a couple of different VTAC guides as well that we encourage students to have a look at because, again, it helps students to research and plan and decide on different pathways. Again, students have completed a career action plan within the context of the home group program in the last couple of years, and that's something that we do recommend students go back and have a look at because it's got, I suppose, it documents their skills and their strengths and their interests and the possible pathways that are linked to those. The VTAC website is also a fantastic resource, and so this is, I suppose, a good repository of different courses, tertiary courses and the like, and it gives students insight into what the courses entail, but it also gives students some insight into the ATAR score that they will need to access that course, as well as prerequisites. Now, an ATAR score is something that students acquire at the end of the VCE certificate only. So if a student pursues a VCAL pathway, they will emerge with a VCAL certificate. If a student pursues a VCE pathway, they will emerge with a VCE certificate and an ATAR score attached to that. And that's just a ranking score. So it essentially ranks students against every other student in the state who has undertaken a Year 12 course in that year. And that's a measure that universities and tertiary institutions use to determine who is able to enter into their courses. So a course, for example, may have an ATAR score of 76.2. So students will need to acquire an ATAR score of 76.2, usually, in order to enter that course. So it's important that students are doing a bit of a search to think about the courses they may potentially wish to pursue and having a think about that ATAR. But more importantly, looking at the prerequisites that courses have. And essentially that means that some courses, as well as the ATAR score, require students to complete a certain subject or certain subjects in order to enter into that course. Sometimes as well, those prerequisites have specific scores attached to them. So some courses might say that students need to complete chemistry and get a score of at least 30 in chemistry, as well as that ATAR, in order to enter that course. Sometimes courses may say, as long as students have done English and one version of maths, they're allowed to enter into that course. So sometimes there's a specific score attached to it, and sometimes there isn't, but a lot of universities are actually now moving towards not just the ATAR, but they need students to have undertaken certain courses in Year 11 and Year 12 in order to make it into that course as well. And so that's why we want students to do some research now, because we'd hate for them to get to Year 12, find the perfect course, and realise, for example, that they needed to undertake chemistry in order to make it into that course, and they hadn't studied it. So we do want students to start to think about now, even though it seems probably a little bit daunting. Again, in the course handbook that students will have picked up on within their packs, there are a range of different example pathways so that you can have a look at the different subjects and what they may lead to post Year 12. So I do encourage you to have a look at that. I'll go through, I suppose, the different options in a little bit more detail now, but as I mentioned, the Victorian Certificate of Education is one option that students can undertake, and there are lots of different subjects from which students can choose, but it does involve a couple of different things. So students have to complete English. That is mandatory for all students across the state. So that is deemed to be a core subject, and students have to pass at least 3 units of English. So each unit is basically a semester. So semester 1, Year 11 is Unit 1, semester 2 in Year 11 is Unit 2, semester 1 in Year 12 is Unit 3, semester 2 in Year 12 is Unit 4. And so basically students have to pass at least 3 of those units in English, and 2 of those have to be in Year 12. So students cannot fail anything in English in Year 12. They need to make sure that they're acquiring those units in order to acquire their VCE certificate as well as their ATAR score. VCAL, as I said, is another option from which students can choose. And so that's the Victorian Certificate of Applied Learning, which entails more of a hands-on based program. And it leads to TAFE, apprenticeship and employment opportunities, but it does not lead to university opportunities. So there is no ATAR at the end of a VCAL certificate. So VCE, students acquire an ATAR and they're able to apply to enter a university or tertiary institution, whereas with VCAL there's no ATAR and it can lead to TAFE and apprenticeships, but no university or tertiary education. In terms of VCAL, there are a range of different subjects that students may choose from, but again, the core ones are literacy and maths. And then there are skill-based subjects that look to bolster students' employability skills, so personal development subjects and work-related skills subjects, coupled with a work placement and some VET subjects. So students have to participate in a structured work placement, and again, it's quite a competitive course. So there is an application process and students are considered on a case-by-case basis. So a panel does meet and it does look at students' performance across the board. So looking at GPA, academic performance, attendance, it's in that way that the panel meets to make a decision about students who will be accepted into the VCAL program. And so Year 11 students complete what's called an intermediate VCAL certificate before progressing to a senior VCAL certificate in Year 12. In terms of VCAL as well, students do have to apply for VCE at the same time. So when you are submitting your forms at the end of this process, even if you are applying for VCAL, you also have to apply for VCE just in case, because as I said, entry into the VCAL program is quite competitive, and we want to make sure that students have a VCE program planned just in case. As I mentioned earlier, the core components of VCAL include literacy and mathematics, as well as personal development, work-related skills, a VET cluster subject, which I'll go through in a minute, and a work placement. There's a lot of information on the DEET site in regards to VET, and again, I'll just go through VET subjects. And so students at Taylors Lakes can choose a VET course if they're in VCE or if they're in VCAL. So it's open to all students, but there is a difference. So students who study a VCE certificate can choose from a VET course on this page only, because these are the VET subjects that are run here at Taylors Lakes Secondary College. So they can choose from one of these 8 subjects. VCAL students, however, can choose from this list, but they can also choose from an off-site list as well. So we have a number of schools in our cluster who provide a range of different VET courses at their school. And so VCAL students are actually able to move and work off-site at another school 1 or 2 afternoons per week, depending on what the subject is, and they travel to that school and they participate in the VET subject that they've chosen there. So VCE students can still undertake a VET subject, but it has to be one of the ones on the previous page that are offered at Taylors Lakes Secondary College. In terms of VET subjects, some of them are scored and go towards VCE. A lot of them are unscored or time dependent, and so they don't count towards a VCE qualification. There are specific fees attached to those courses, and they are payable to the General Office, and they will be communicated to you. A student who enrolls in a VET course needs to have what's called a USI, and so they have to go to the website there and complete that process. And again, in the student course handbook, that information is there as well for students. So they need to have a USI in order to apply for a VET subject, and then you just pop that USI on your application form. Again, just going back to VCAL, in terms of the structure of the VCAL course, students work on-site at Taylors Lakes Secondary College on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Then on a Tuesday, they complete their VET subject, either at Taylors Lakes, if it's one that we offer here, or at another school, if it's offered in one of our cluster schools. And then there's the structured workplace learning block. There are 2 blocks across the year where they basically have hands-on work experience. In terms of vet, again, there's another application form there, so you'll need to submit that to the school, and then you'll also need to go to the Brimbank Vet Cluster webpage and enrol there as well. Some of the courses are quite popular, and sometimes it is a case of first in, first dressed, so it is imperative that once you've got your USI and you've met with your course advisor. Okay, I apologise. There may be a little bit of a glitch or a jump as the previous recording timed out, but I believe I was talking about the VET expression of interest subject selection form. So that's the paperwork that we need as a college, but there are a couple of other things that students need to complete as well. So students need to create a USI, and the website is pretty straightforward, but you will need a couple of things with you in order to complete that. So you'll need a Medicare number or a passport number, as well as just some basic information like, you know, your name and your date of birth and that sort of stuff. But Miss Versace is the vet coordinator. She's more than willing to assist with this if you have any glitches, but we do recommend that once you have gone to that website, you've created that USI, make sure that you document it. Keep it in a safe place because it is something that you may need later on in life. And so some of you may already have one. If you've done training in your workplace, for example, you may already have a USI. So check that first. If not, jump on the website, make sure you have your documentation with you. Grab your USI, pop it on the form, and then you need to head to the BVC cluster website, and that's the Brimbank Vet Cluster website, and that's where you actually apply directly to them to submit an application. So you're submitting your expression of interest, and I do recommend that you get in pretty quickly because they do tend to fill up. So make sure that you do that as soon as possible. So the form into the school once you've got your USI, and then your application via the Brimbank Vet Cluster website. Again, if you are going into VCAL or you intend to apply for VCAL, you need to submit the application form, but again, you have to submit a VCE form as well, just in case. That's mandatory. You have to, because spaces are limited within the VCAL program. So please make sure that you fill out your form and make sure that you apply for VET, irrespective of whether you're doing VCE or VCAL, as early as possible on the BVC website, because places do fill up pretty quickly. Just a reminder also that alongside those hard copy forms, web choices forms need to be completed. So that's for all students. You should be quite familiar with this portal and with this process as you used it last year. But again, all of the information that you need is in the pack that you collected from school. So it has the website and it also has your unique login details. So you need to make sure that following your interview with your course advisor, that you fill in and lock in your web choices. Again, that's for all students. Even if you're applying for VCAL, you need to do this as a backup for a VCE program just in case. And it's due on Friday, the 14th of August, and you need to make sure that you do get it in by that date because it is quite an extensive process trying to allocate subjects and piece the timetable together. So web choices needs to be submitted online. If you're applying for a VET subject, that needs to be submitted online, and then hard copies of your re-enrollment form need to come in as well with your subject selection on that. And if you're applying for VCAL, that form needs to come in as well. So that can be dropped off at the general office, or they can just be filled out electronically and emailed through to your course advisor, because we recognise that this is quite an unprecedented and scary time, and you know we do want to help you limit movement as much as possible. So feel free to email those forms to your course advisor. Just a reminder also to make sure that you are arranging your subjects in order of preference. Sometimes we are at the mercy of the timetable and there may be an inevitable clash. You know, you may select psychology and chemistry. There may only be one class of each of those and they run at the same time. So unfortunately, you can only be allocated to one. So that would mean that we would need to go further down in your preference order. So please make sure that you're not just popping subjects in there for the sake of it, that you're including the ones that you do actually want to do and that you are placing them in order of preference. Just finally, there is an element, I suppose, of flexibility to the courses that we offer, but I suppose they're only allocated if there are mitigating or extenuating circumstances. So there is an option of a 3-year VCE, but that's not an option that we offer from the outset. We don't sit down and say, okay, you're going to do a 3-year VCE. It's more so there's been a health issue or a significant absence or another mitigating reason that prevents students from engaging engaging fully. So we might say, okay, we're looking at a 3-year VCE here. By the same token, if a student doesn't pass enough units or English units, that may be a case whereby a 3-year VCE is pursued, but it's not something that's offered widely and just from the outset. It's only if something arises that is essentially beyond someone's control. Again, we recognise that there may need to be some shift. So if you are doing a VCE course and you would like to change subjects midway through year 11, for example, you can. There'll be a subject change request form. Again, it's not guaranteed. It's dependent on numbers and how the timetable is operating, but you are able to apply mid-year to change subjects if you would like to. In terms of moving from VCE to VCAL, that cannot happen midway through year 11. That's something that we look at the end of year 11. And again, it's not an automatic transfer. It's not guaranteed. It's dependent on essentially a student's performance in VCE. If they've tried, if they've demonstrated a commitment to their academics, if their attendance is good and their GPA, then that's something we can definitely consider. But it's not just a matter of don't like VCE, I'll just chill for the rest of the year and then move into VCAL. That's not how it works. So we still need to see that commitment, and it never happens midway through year 11. It's something that we look at and consider at the end of year 11. To conclude, basically, I just want to reiterate the fact that we want students to undertake subjects that they enjoy, subjects that they're passionate about, because at the end of the day, they're going to perform better in those subjects or in that pathway if it's something that they actually want to do. So whilst it's a good idea to have a look at those courses and play around with those resources and look at ATARs and prerequisites, in year 11 there isn't too much pressure there because, as I said, you can change subjects. You know, if you find a course midway through year 11 that requires you to undertake chemistry and you haven't already taken it in year 11, you can apply to do that midway through year 11 or at the end of year 11. That's fine. So don't worry too much, but it's good to get a feel for the different courses and what they require. But keep your options open. Obviously, you have to do English, and we recommend that you hold on to a maths as well, and try and make sure you enjoy your course, but that you've got a few different learning areas in there. So not just all science, for example. You know, try and spread it out a little bit. Just a reminder that the hard copy of the handbook was in your course packs. If you didn't get one for any reason and you'd like a hard copy, feel free to contact the general office and you can purchase one from there. Otherwise, the PDF is available on campus. If you are moving into an accelerated subject, so you'd like to try and do a Year 12 subject next year, and you haven't already started the Year 11 subject this year, there's a form on campus that you can submit to apply for that. But that is due quite soon, actually, so the 30th of July, which is next Thursday. So it is coming up quite quickly, and again, that needs to be submitted to Miss Damon by the due date. So that those deadlines are really, really important. Please get that in. Just a reminder also to look at your course pack, have a look at the documents that pertain specifically to you, because it has your appointment time with your course advisor on Thursday the 6th of August, as well as the WebEx code that you'll need to type in order to access that appointment. So please make sure that you jot it down, you know when it is. It's for students, it's for families, all are welcome. Just be ready to go, and your course advisor will call you in once you're in that WebEx room. So please make sure that you are on time, and there's essentially very little room to move because everyone's booked back to back, and obviously it is a very different way of doing things, so please make sure you stick to that appointment time. Again, deadlines are very important. Please make sure that once you've met with your course advisor, you're submitting those forms as soon as possible so that they are in and so that we can construct the timetable. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. And again, if you'd like any further clarification or information or some questions answered, please feel free to attend the WebEx session on Tuesday, the 28th of July at 7 p.m. Again, the code is in your course pack, and I'll see you then.